Hello, everyone. Happy Trans Day of Visibility. I am Princess Ariel, and I just wanted to pop on here for a quick talk. I tried to do a car talk earlier today, but it took forever to upload, so I thought I'd just come back on tonight and try to reach out to my trans youth, those middle school and high school kids who are seeing our government, local politicians ram through bills that really aren't favorable to us. And I just want to remind you guys that, us grown-ups were children once, and we experienced, a lot of challenges just like you, and that you're not alone. And don't feel sad. I already seen some videos of people misspeaking in front of trans youth, and they're coming on the live crying because they don't know how to defend themselves. And I can tell you from experience, when I was very, 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 very small in a very rural town of melanated people who look like me, I was experiencing similar remarks from grown-ups who were saying inappropriate things about me, that I honestly didn't even understand why they were saying those things, because I was showing up trans before I even knew what trans meant. In other words, when I popped out into the world, I showed up as I am before you. And it was very difficult. There were times when I would hear conversations of, things that were about me, but not being said directly to me. But I knew somehow those things were about me because they were very negative. And the town that I grew up in, there wasn't any other trans children. There wasn't any trans adults. There wasn't any LGBTQ that I could physically see, because I grew up in a very rural place where it was just farm animals and little dirt road, and we were very poor. And I was basically learning how to, plant flowers, plant vegetables, take care of farm animals, go to church, and go to church some more. So I'm just telling you these things because I'm aware of you guys now more than ever because of all the bills that are being rammed through. Even in my state of Huckleberry Finn, they've passed, the anti-trans bill, anti-drag queen bill, the bathroom bill. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And we're still, there's some of us here in the state, but there's not enough of us really to pass drag queen bills. I think that's just ridiculous, but she can do what she wants. It's not going to stop anything, in my opinion. But I just want you to know that I see you. I hope that you will, listen to what I'm telling you, just to relax, take a deep breath, and everything's going to be okay. You're going to be able to grow up and live your life just like I was able to grow up and live my life. I'm in my mid-50s now. I still go by Princess Ariel from the Disney Magic Kingdom Parks Parade Ariels. And I still do my cosplay when I can. And, life goes on. I just feel like at this particular point in time, it saddens me to see you guys so upset, because I remember being in your shoes. And I just wanted to remind you guys, when you're out and about, you don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe them. You shouldn't have to defend yourself to an adult. All you have to do is live your life and be happy and shine bright. And anybody who's speaking ill of transgender or transgender youth, or misspeaking about you, and you know that it's wrong, it's not necessary for you to defend yourself to them. Don't get confrontational. Let those people have their opinions and continue to live your life. It's that simple. And the best way to get back at them is to keep living, keep enjoying life, keep doing what you need to do for your mental health. Because at the end of the day, you know, your sanity is most important. And I can tell you firsthand, um, as a child, I was struggling because there was no internet. There was nobody around to teach me anything. There was no TV shows. There was nothing, no information. So it took me well into my 30s and moving out of that town to be in a big city to finally see LGBT people and the interworkings of that. And it was hard. It was very hard. But thank God I met someone who said the words to me that sent me down a rabbit hole. And she said in her broken English, "You're a woman, you're trans." And I said, "Trans? What is that?" And I think it was the first time that it registered in my head. I don't remember ever hearing it, even though I was seeing, performers and stuff. I still wasn't making a connection because it wasn't language that was familiar to me coming from such a small little town. And so um, I went down the rabbit hole, found a doctor, and started my transition in Florida, of all places. Um, and, my life changed for the better. It was the best thing that I could have ever done for myself. And then I could kind of track backwards all the things in my mind from all the way back to my childhood, why things were so difficult because I was showing up as, as a girl and identifying with girls all along. And I knew deep down inside I wanted to be a girl. I just didn't have the language for it. But it didn't stop the people in the town from seeing me before I saw me. And I think that was the disconnect, because sometimes people can see you before you see yourself. And whenever you show up, or however you show up, or when you arrive at whatever age, it's okay. It's not a race, it's not a competition. And so a lot of times for me, I'm just mainly thinking about melanated people because I grew up around so many dysfunctional, negative types of people. And speaking of, I want to show you a video of a particular individual who, it's kind of triggering, but it will make sense after you see what she says.
I am a woman. Okay, I'm going to say it. As a woman, I do not feel comfortable being forced to share my private female-only spaces with biological men, be it a trans woman or a regular guy. Why? Because you're a biological man. It is as simple as that. Now, this is not transphobic because it applies to all men. And I suspect most women agree with me, but are too afraid to say. Because look what happens when you do. The treatment meted out to J.K. Rowling for sticking up for women's rights. Labour MP Rosie Duffield afraid to go to her own party conference because she supported the claim that only women have a cervix. And Kathleen Stott hounded out of her job for believing that biology trumps gender. Look, I have sympathy for those with gender dysphoria. It must be horrendous to feel the way that you do. But is it okay that you accept that I feel the way I do? I simply don't want men to enter my female-only space because that space is for women, and if you are a man, I don't feel comfortable with you in it. Calling yourself a woman won't make any difference to me. I cannot lie to myself. You are still a biological man. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I appreciate those are your feelings, but these are mine. I personally don't want to have to deal with...
Okay, so she feels that it's her insecurity about sharing a bathroom. A bathroom is her reasoning and her womanhood and her cervix and all of these unspeakable things that constructs her as her identity. And I'm like, okay, so what does that got to do with me? Because remember, I'm in my 50s. So 50 years ago in the 60s, like around when Martin Luther King died, like in 68 was the year I was born. Prior to that, people of color couldn't even drink out of the same water fountains as women who weren't melanated or men. They couldn't eat at the same restaurants. They couldn't sit in the front of the bus. They couldn't marry someone of a different culture. So while she's sitting there defending all of these turf women who aren't melanated, those women's ancestors probably owned hers back then, or they worked for them, you know? And so it's selective anger. So you just pick a topic and that's what you're angry about. Because the same woman, she's not from the United States. She's probably from England or Britain or somewhere like that. And, you know, back, they're still dealing with the same issues, you know, around race and human sexuality. It's the same thing in those countries because it's been y'all's cousins. So even now, with these same frivolous laws that are being passed, I saw Jim Crow law. So when I saw the Jim Crow law, and I thought, well, okay, people like that are getting mad because we're using their bathrooms, but you're not mad about a Jim Crow law that takes away your voting rights as a person of melanated skin? And I'm not speaking of her because she's from another country, but there's plenty of girls that look like that in her DMs down in that chat box. And I saw them. And so all of them were agreeing with her and blah, blah, and shouting it to the rooftop. And I'm like, 50 years ago, none of you, not one of you would have even a voice to speak next to those other J.K. Rowlings and them other women because everything was segregated. So it's like selective anger, and it's so stupid to me. And it's sad that we are still, you know, squabbling over identity because my identity has nothing to do with another woman of color. I have 3 sisters. I had a mother. I love them very much. But when I was born, I always came out the way that I was. I didn't have to watch them. I didn't have to learn from them. You know, I already was showing up. Why would people be attacking me? And I was less than 10 years old when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And they were already saying things about my identity and accusing me of being the G in the LGBT, but they were using slurs. So it's just amazing to me how this world works. I mean, I'm going to show you another video of a comedian who also kind of agrees with these women, but she's also on the, she's a part of the community. I don't agree with her, but you look for yourself and we'll come.
Trans women are women. What are your thoughts?
Trans women are trans women. That's not said disrespectfully because my era, we were transvestites, drag queens, you're a man in a dress. We fought to have the title of trans women. Respectfully, trans men are trans men. That is not even a disrespect. It's this younger, new generation, Z crazy, that it's not enough for. But let me just break something down to y'all real simple. If a woman is a social construct and we're emulating women, what would that make us? Social construction workers? To be truthful. And if biological women stop having sex, if biological women stop having babies, it won't be no more black, white, LGBT, fat, funny looking, and nothing else. I know y'all ain't gonna like the way I put it to you in a box, but when you find the lie, stop me. Because I have relationships with trans men that they identify as men, but they're biologically women. They think that, oh, Flame, you just pandering for the women. No, I know what...
Now, she's in her 40s, and she's a comedian, and I don't agree with what she's saying, but I'm not going to judge. I'm just going to say that I'm in my 50s and I don't agree with that because how I show up is who I am. It has nothing to do with competing or trying to take anything away from anybody. And there's no such thing as a blueprint because women of color come in all shapes, sizes, and thought patterns. We're not robots. We're not the Borg. We're not an alien species that all think alike and have one mind. Some of us can, run track. Some of us are climbing telephones and working on, power stations. Some of us are school teachers. Some of us raise children. Some of us do a combination of things. There's no one box that fits all. Genetically speaking, our body shapes and body sizes and things are different. So why do a trans woman of color need to follow a particular pattern or a blueprint of someone that is saying these kind of things? Do I really want to be considered a person who is discriminating against a marginalized group and I'm going to follow that as a blueprint. Does that really make sense? It doesn't. Because I would never follow a blueprint of somebody who hated me and treated me really bad. And the same thing goes for J.K. Rowling or any other turf person. I'm not going to look at you as the blueprint, because why would I look at a blueprint person who's miserable and angry and insecure? Because all it's giving off is insecurity and a threat. And why is somebody who has, like me, who's suffering with mental illness, which this is what it is, healthcare, and me healing myself, have to do with you? With your cervix or your whatever that you got going on? Because I got a mother too. I got sisters too. They got children, some of them don't. So does the ones that don't have children, does that make them less of a woman? Like, you're arguing these frivolous little things and it ain't making any, the math isn't mathing. The math isn't mathing for me. And I love who I am. I love how I present. I love showing up. I love that there are people in my life who love me. And I'm okay with that. But for a long time, when I didn't have the language, I wasn't loving myself. I was a suicide case, starting at like around age 17, and it continued all the way up to age 30 when I was ready to take the pills. And then this girl showed up and said the word trans. And I think that was the thing that saved my life, because had I not met her, I would have swallowed every pill in the thing that night, because I wasn't identifying with the G in the LGBT. I knew that I didn't want male parts on my body. I didn't identify with that. I didn't identify with anything with male, gay, or straight, or cis, or whatever, or non-binary. I don't identify with that. I don't identify with trans men. I'm a trans woman, period. And that's how I identify. That's how I show up. And I don't want you to get discouraged, because there are the different types of trans girls out there who may not share the same opinions as you. If you're non-binary, that's fine. If you are trans and you identify as trans female, that's fine. If you identify as half centipede and half human, that's fine. Whatever you are, that's okay. It shouldn't be a competition between any of us. All I know is we're all on the spectrum. Our healthcare is being taken away from us. And for what? What's the point of it? It's not going to solve anything. We're going to continue to do what we're going to do. We're going to get it whether it's legal or illegal. If we got to go to the borders of Mexico, where we're going to go, travel out of the country and do what we got to do, we're going to do that. Right? I didn't done it before it was legal. And so don't worry and don't be afraid, because these things have happened before and you guys are going to be fine. And I'm going to show you one more clip that shows me how I know you guys are going to be fine, because you guys are on it. When you're hearing these politicians and these local people talking against you and talking about your autonomy and your rights to be in school, your rights to show up in bathrooms, your rights to play sports and all of that, all you got to do is follow the money. Follow the money, honey. And watch this.
I wanted to know who was behind all of these anti-abortion and anti-trans bills, so I did my research, and what I found is absolutely horrifying, and every American needs to know. In every article about these bills that I found, 3 letters kept popping up. ADF. Over and over again. But who are they? ADF stands for Alliance Defending Freedom. They're the world's largest legal organization committing to protecting religious freedom. When they ask you to join, they say it's to defend your God-given and constitutionally protected freedoms. But it's not religious freedom, it's Christian supremacy. Let me show you. ADF is one of the most organized and influential Christian legal groups in the country. They were co-founded by James Dobson, who also founded Focus on the Family. They focus on religious liberty, opposition to abortion, and opposition to same-sex marriage. When it comes to religion and public institution, one of their goals is for Christianity to be reflected in the U.S. legal system, including prayer and display of crosses. When it comes to opposition of the LGBT community, they are in favor of homosexuality being a crime. They support conversion therapy. They also oppose same-sex marriage, civil unions, as well as adoption by same-sex couples. That's not the only person they oppose adoption for. They also try to bar Jewish people from adopting. They're also opposed to abortion. The Blackstone Legal Fellowship is ADF's summer legal training program founded in 2000 for the purpose of preparing Christian law students for professional legal careers. And Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett was a paid speaker at Blackstone on 5 occasions between 2013 and 17. Here's more people that have been affiliated or associated with ADF. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has also been a speaker at ADF events. Other public officials that have supported ADF include Ted Cruz, Greg Abbott, and Donald Trump. Anywhere you see these hateful bills being passed, ADF is behind it. The goal is to turn America into a Christian theocracy. There is so much more that I cannot fit into a TikTok video, and I encourage you to please research this.
So, as you can see, it is an organization of the right, and they have a lot of, it's like a spider's web of corporations funding money for a Christian organization. They don't like people of color. They don't like LGBTQIA. And they want a very small window of the world to be just man, woman, child, and that's it. And they don't want intermixing and interracial, none of that. It's all in detail right there in your face. So when you see these bills cropping up, know who the people are who are behind it. It's not everybody. It is a small group of people who want to see these Christian groups flourish. And unfortunately, there are melanated people who are associating with that, even though they're not really part of the organization. They're just using them for votes and for hype, into those spaces where they can inflict pain and negativity into those communities. And it's okay. Let it be what it's going to be. And, if you're a Christian and you follow the Bible, God says when he comes back on the earth, he is going to be the one to separate the wheat from the tare, the good from the bad. It's not up to us to do it, as they're feeling like they can just replace God and do his job for him. That ain't how it works. When you die individually. You're judged individually. You're not judged as a collective, how you operated as a group trying to, inflict pain on a smaller group of minority people. It don't work like that, because we are the children of the God. So know that you are loved. Know that this day is a day of remembrance. If you want to learn more Black history, I suggest you guys follow Dr. Greg Carr, who is well versed in African American studies, and start making connections about, the diaspora and the beginning and inner workings of the enslaved Africans and how they were dispersed throughout the diaspora, and understand the differences in chattel slavery that happened in the United States in the South, and enslavement around the world, or indentured servitude around the world. It's two totally different things. One is more brutal than the other. And once you have an understanding of that, you have to understand atonement. And atonement means being forgiving and paying restitute to those who were victims of this hateful crime. And that's show me the money. And we've seen this happen before around the world, where there were groups of people who were afflicted by, a gentleman, and they were moved from one country, and the UN got together and placed them in the Middle East, and they were given atonement from several countries, and they were paid and given land. It's that simple. And so atonement has to happen at some point for these melanated people who have been enslaved from 16th, 17th, 18th centuries, and now we're in Jim Crow era again. So we're just repeating, industrial prison complexes, redlining, keeping, people of color out of wealthy areas, decimating the areas where they live, snatching land, snatching properties, and putting people in prison. That's all you need to know. Try to follow Professor Hunter, Karen Hunter. She has created an app called Nubia with a K. And it's a place where all the people from around the diaspora can meet and discuss Black history and African history studies, and make connections and try to retrace their steps and find out and figure out what part of Africa your ancestry may have come from. It's impossible for some of us to trace it back because of the buying and selling of the enslaved body of the melanated people. And know that Bridgerton is just a made up construct, it's just a fantasy that is not reality. That Mary Shelley, George Washington story is just a, a love story made up. It's not romantic. What happened to that child was, you know, horrific. And that it is not a love story. I don't know why people keep romanticizing horrific things, but um, okay, do you, but just, try to educate yourselves on, the Black studies and try to get a clear understanding of, you know, what really happened, fact from fiction. Because for me, I just started studying on my own for my own personal growth, and it's rewarding. I have to undo a lot of things out of my head, and then I have to learn a lot of things. And lastly, if you want to see or hear anything about the latest um, news on trans girls that are of color who have lost their lives, missing, dating, anything like that, go to the Raven Ova channel on YouTube. It's Raven_Ova. She does a very excellent job of reporting and keeping up with the girls out here in the world and what's going on. She's really talented, musically, singing, everything. She's beautiful. And I think she would be very resourceful for some young people like you guys. And I hope that you have a wonderful day of visibility. I know it's been a little bit long-winded for me, but it's late. I'm tired, so I talk a little slow when I'm tired, so I may have to do this in 2 parts. But at any rate, I will try to piece all this together and post it tonight so you guys can start, partaking in the real world and feel like somebody loves you, because we love you very much and we understand what you've been going through. And you're going to be fine. I promise you're going to be fine. Out of the darkness and into the light, baby. RuPaul says we're all born naked and everything else is drag, and it is so true. So anybody that's insecure about you wearing women's clothes or whatever their insecurity, or dressing in, drag or whatever, why? They've been doing it since Shakespearean times and probably all the way back to the Egyptian times. So it ain't nothing new, baby. Have a wonderful visibility, and I love you. Bye.